Open world games are some of my favourite games of all time. What I really like about these games is that you can get very immersed in them and feel as though you're living in the world rather than just playing the game. However, sometimes the open world games don't always do this by restricting where you can go. There are various ways that a game can try to stop you from exploring all of the map straight away, but why would a game want to do that in the first place anyway? Sometimes they might want to drip feed the map to you by only giving you part of the map at a time. This can be both a good and bad thing, in that it can keep the player in suspense and wanting to see more, but it could have the opposite effect in that it will make players bored and not willing to play the game because they just want to experience the world and not have to spend ages doing the missions in order to unlock it. What various games do is to have a small initial starting area where the player has to do a few things, learn a bit of the tutorial, and then they can move on to the rest of the world. Skyrim and Far Cry 2 are two examples of this. So in Skyrim you're a prisoner and you end up escaping an attack at the execution ground, and in your escape you are then free to explore all of the map, excluding a couple of very small places, but the beauty of the world is available to explore. In Far Cry 2 you survive a massacre at your starting hotel, and then you can explore the first of the two main areas. In this game though, there are two huge areas to explore, but the game does a good job of not really making the second area known to you at all. It's only partway through the missions that you end up going to the second area, but when you are in each of these areas you can then go anywhere you want and do whatever you like. Some games try to restrict you as the game goes on, such as the Assassin's Creed games. In at least most of these games, the memories you have to be unlocked as you do missions throughout the game, and these memories allow you to be able to see what the rest of the cities look like. For example, in the first game you can only enter certain parts of the city at a time, and you have to complete missions in order to be able to go into the next part of the city. And the game has a very clever way to manage this by having an invisible wall that's like a block in the memory, as though you haven't explored that section of Desmond's DNA. And it's a wall that looks a bit glitchy, and it ties in well with the aesthetic of the Animus that you are in. However, I personally dislike this, as I always want to explore the whole map near enough straight away, as I'm always still interested in playing the whole game. Grand Theft Auto has done this in some of its earlier games, for example in 3 and Vice City. These games were designed so that there were a few islands in the game, and you could only get to the next one by completing missions. However, each island is huge and you often have a lot to do. So this feels more like an open world game and not just something that is restricted to a small section. Rockstar then allowed the player in Grand Theft Auto 5 to explore the huge island pretty much straight away. The Saboteur, a game set in Nazi-occupied France during World War II, I think has one of the best examples of how I think open world games should be approached. The game is mostly set in Paris, but with the ability to go to other places. Most of the missions and gameplay is set within Paris, but the city is divided into zones. So you start off in Zone 1, and in order to get into Zone 2 and Zone 3 safely, you need some new papers that you obtain as the missions go on. You can, however, drive through these checkpoints and explore the other zones of the city, but you have to prepare yourself for the Nazis that will come after you and try to kill you. So the game allows you to explore the whole world at once, but gives you a bit of a difficult time in doing so unless you can complete more missions. Sleeping Dogs is another game where I feel the open world nature of it is a very good system. The game is set in Hong Kong and has 4 towns that you can explore at any time, but the majority of missions will only appear 1 town at a time. So this means that you can go anywhere you want to, but it might not be quite as interesting. So while some games approach the open world scenario in a way that I prefer, there are some that don't. I feel the best way of approaching exploring open world games is to allow the player to explore most, if not all, of the world near enough straight away, and to avoid the player from getting bored. But to have the missions maybe more centred towards one area in order to drip feed new areas at the pace that the game wants. Thank you for watching.